Hello and welcome along to episode 23 of the Tennis Asia podcast. And on this special show, we take a deep dive into the Australian Open 2025 main draw. The tournament is not much more than 24 hours away now. And joining me to run down all of the Tennis Asia interest in this Grand Slam of the Asia Pacific is Mr. Tennis Asia himself, Eddie. Eddie, are you excited?
I am pretty excited because, well, I mean, it's always exciting, isn't it, when it comes to the Australian Open first slam of the year? And yeah, just everyone's fit mostly and ready to go. I'm talking about the players and also for us being here in Korea,
Mm,
this is actually the slam that's the best time zone for us. So
it
it's the
is a great.
slam of the Asia Pacific. That's where they market it, right?
Indeed, they don't miss us out here, and yeah, to watch a few games in prime time is a bit of a luxury that we don't often have in this part of the world. We're going to go through the men's and then the women's. We're going to go from top to bottom. We will stop off at any match of Tennis Asia interest. So we will start in the men's side, and we don't have to go far down to find your good friend from Seoul. He's in the second tie. Taro Daniel, he faces one of our challenger regulars as well in Tristan Schoolcat. So a good draw
Mm-hmm.
on the surface. And then what could happen?
Yeah, so we're straight in then. Yeah, so here is the draw there on Wikipedia. So the first section, I mean, obviously what stands out there is the number one seed, Yannick Sinner, who draws Nicholas Jarry, which is actually for for
Mm,
an unseeded opponent is one of the more difficult ones he could have faced. Having
dangerous
said that,
floater, as you might call it.
yeah, having said that, I think Sinner is at a level now where I don't think Jarry should really trouble him. Um, and assuming that Jarry doesn't, then yeah, of course, Sinner will go through to round two, and that's going to be either Tristan Schoolcate or Taro Daniel, as you said, of Japan. Yeah, someone I did talk to back in November, beginning of November, wasn't it? Yeah, where the Seoul
It was,
Challenger
yeah. Yeah.
was taking place, and his sadly his rackets were stolen, but
Yes,
but
three of them. If he gets through to the second round of a slam, he can afford to replace those now.
well, yeah, I mean, he has to play Tristan Schoolcate, which obviously being a local player, it's never ideal. I mean, he's obviously going to have big support. It's a sort of yeah, it's like a challenger match, isn't it?
Yeah.
Actually, Daniel against Schoolcate, yeah.
There's
But yeah,
actually
so
quite a few of those in the draw, but
yeah, so I mean, yeah, Daniel on paper, I mean, I think he's got a good chance here to take it. I mean, it's really maybe a slight favorite even, but
yeah.
ultimately, I think when it comes down to this, over 5 sets, of course, Schoolcate's going to be really motivated at home. It's more or less 50-50 in a way, and each of them are playing really for the chance to get thumped by Sinner in the second round, but but you know looking further down in that top section, section one, we do have another Asian player from China, Triple
Triple
Z.
Z, yeah, that's not an ideal draw, but Holger Rune would probably think, from his point of view, that's by no means an ideal draw either.
Yeah, but I mean, he's seeded and yeah, could have been easier for him for sure. But Holger Rune is going to have higher ambitions. And I mean, actually, that little section there from Hurkacz through all those unseeded players, those are tough. Look,
Yeah,
Hurkacz against Greeks, where Griekspoor is one of the tougher unseeded players. You've got Kosmanovic, Lajovic, Berrettini, and Nori. So even if Zhang,
both
I
unseeded.
mean,
Hey,
he's an underdog against Rune for sure. And Rune, I mean, he's one of the few players, perhaps the only player that could maybe have a chance of troubling Sinner if should he get to the fourth round. So Zhang's going to have to be playing very well. And to be honest, I mean, in the last several months, he's not really been at it since that he reached the final, wasn't it? Yeah, in Huangzhou. and he lost it to Cilic in that final, which was a bit of a shame for him. But then, yeah, I mean, he hasn't started off particularly well in this year. So, yeah, against Runa, I can't say I'm very hopeful of a result. I mean, he did. Was it Zhang played one match in Adelaide and lost to Shapovalov.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then he did play the United Cup, but he did beat Montero, lost to Zverev and Fritz. So, yeah, I mean, if he'd won one of those matches, if he'd you'd be thinking, yeah, maybe he's got a bit good chance against Runa. But even if he does manage to pull out a bit of an upset against Runa, Berrettini and Nari, tough. And then you look at that little section at the bottom from Hurkacz down to Runa and think those guys are, whoever comes out of that,
yeah,
Sinner's there just to feast on the remains. In a way. So
they'll have earned their fourth round losers check, certainly say that. So we're probably saying from the top 8 of the draw, one player from Asia into the second round would probably be par for that.
Yeah. And then, yeah, if we move down section 2, the only player of representing an Asian is Alexander Bublik, who's drawn against Francisco Cerundolo. Yeah, that's also quite a tricky one for Cerundolo, I would say. But I mean, Bublik definitely has opportunity to do well. The conditions should be quite quick, right? So that will suit him. And I think, if Bublik was to get through, he plays either Diaz Acosta or Zizou Bergs. Zizou Bergs, by the way, is in the final in Auckland, his first ever ATP final. So, he's probably going to be not like particularly fresh, right? So he's just, regardless of the outcome, he's going to have to fly. And Auckland is quite far actually from Melbourne, isn't it? It's like what's the flight time? I don't know. It's probably like 3 or 4 hours, right? So
right,
it takes
it's
time.
It's further than Hong Kong to Seoul.
Yeah. Well, and so Bublik, I mean, you never really know what you're going to get. Certainly, you'd see that maybe he could get to the third round here, but probably he's going to have to come up against Alex de Minaur, who is a player that's just really solid at the moment, and is at his peak really, and isn't going to give up, many free points, and I think with in that section, yeah, you've also got on the other side, of course, Tsitsipas. I mean, he's drawn against Mickelson. You could imagine Mickelson coming out on top there, but we'd have to see. And another just of interest, not to Tennis Asia as such, but Martin Landalus there, who is the just turned 19, a player from Spain who did come through qualification. There was 3 teenagers. He's one of them.
Teenagers,
that came through the qualification here, along with Lerner Tien and, of course, João Fonseca, who's everyone's excited about, and maybe talk about him a bit. But and that section, I mean, for Bublik, I mean, it's tricky. I mean, you'd probably be surprised if
it's tricky, but it's a nicer section than the bottom half of section 1. Moving on to section 3, I do see Jensen Brooksby is back, who we actually saw on a baking hot day in Seoul a couple of years ago. Obviously, he's had his difficulties, but using a protected ranking to get in here. I don't know if we have any interest in this section of the draw, do we?
No Asian players there. How can I connect it back to Brooksby? Actually, he knocked out Kwan in that, I think, in the second round in that tournament in Seoul back 2 years, 2022. I mean, I just could talk briefly and just say that I don't think Brooksby's going to be. I mean, it's just I don't think he's played a match. He was going to play in one of the run-up tournaments, but pulled out. So he's probably not the sharpest right now. And interesting little section. Obviously, got Monfils against Perikar, and Batista Agut against Shapovalov. And Shelton Nakashima. I mean, it's quite a tough little section there as well. And
I've just realised why Wikipedia has actually put the badge. I thought they're being a bit presumptuous, just assuming who's going through. But of course, that's when two players of the same nationality are playing each other in the first round.
Yeah. That's someone's got on top of that there. And going into section 4,
what a reward for winning that wild card.
Right, yeah, you're referring to here Kasidit Samrej of Thailand, Thailand's number 1 male player. He is, just outside the top 400, and he won that Asia Pacific wildcard playoff, which we did cover, and he beat Ryo Noguchi in the final of Japan to win that wildcard spot. Asia Pacific players could compete. I mean, not too many, to be honest, did compete this time in terms of it. It wasn't a particularly strong field, and partly because it was held while challenges were still going on, which is really just seems like a silly decision because those players are the kind of players that this is targeted at, and some of them were still playing for other points for other reasons. So but Samrej, of course, we're not really expecting him to pull off the upset against Medvedev. Medvedev hasn't been that great over the last several months, compared to how he was, but Samrej actually was training with Novak Djokovic in Thailand, in Phuket, the island of Phuket, before, that was his preseason. Probably good for Djokovic, to get that warm weather, training that hot weather. And for Samrej, I'm sure that was a really valuable experience to be able to play against Djokovic, and just to be able to train with some guys. Hopefully he's been able to train with a few more guys in Australia. I think he played one challenger match before this and actually lost it in non-Tabari. But he'll be hoping to try and bring his A game. He has some power, so let's see if he can bring that. And if he can run any of the sets close, I think he'll be feeling pretty proud of his efforts.
Just a few months removed from playing Coleman Wong on an outer court at Seoul, he's almost certainly going to be on a show court in Melbourne Park. A brief word on Fonseca. He's obviously got the streak. He's got the Uchijima-esque streak. He's up to 13 undefeated. That's going to be tested in the first round.
Yeah, Fonseca, amazing qualification. Just what came through in straight sets. Just really impressive for an 18-year-old. His forehand is a massive weapon, and clearly he's got the mentality. He's always struck me as very mature when I've seen him in interviews going back to when he was 17. Obviously against Rublev. I mean, if I was out of the players in the top 10 at the moment, Rublev is one that's maybe struggling mentally, especially. And obviously, and he didn't have the ideal preparation because he went out in the second round in Hong Kong to Fabian Marajan, and that was the only match that he played because he had a bye. So Fonseca, I would think he'd be seeing this as a real opportunity to really test where he is at with his game. Obviously, winning that next gen finals was big because you had players in there which are already ATP level, right? And he came out on top, and he beat in the final. It was Leonard Tien, who's down here, and a potential opponent for Samrej if he was to pull off the miracle win over Medvedev. I mean, two Brazilians there. I mean, I saw that Fonseca and Sebothveld were. It wasn't Sebothveld. Actually, it was the other Brazilian that we talked about. Where is he? He's not here just at the moment. So it's Thiago Monteiro.
Monteiro. He came through qualifiers, didn't he?
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So I saw Fonseca taking a photo with him, and apparently, I don't know if you know Jeff Saxman, who runs the Tennis Abstract website. He posts a lot of statistical data about tennis, and really good website. You should go onto that and check it out. And he's written articles, but he was saying, he posted a tweet saying that, you know, the Brazilians have arrived. He's already getting so many notifications in Portuguese because the hype's already happened, you know.
Right. Next part of the draw, we find Sumit Nagal, tricky opening tie against Mashak.
Yeah, Thomas Makac is not easy, of course. I mean, a seeded player and a guy that likes these sort of quicker conditions. You know, Nagal's always been one that preferred clay courts. But you know, he's had some success on hard courts. So on this one, it's really, I saw Nagal actually was training with Nick Kyrgios before this. So yeah, I mean, he obviously Kyrgios is a guy that's, I know he's got some issues at the moment, but he's a high level player still. And Makac, yeah, I'm not particularly hopeful for Nagal here, but you know, such as, I'm not saying it's impossible, but you know, I would definitely expect Makac to come through that in maybe 3 or 4 sets. But you know, such as the wonder of the slams, that there's always 1 or 2 results we don't ever really expect, and you know, Nagal getting the win here would be perhaps one of them. You know, I remember Nagal several years ago in the US Open, I believe, opening round he had to play Federer. He took a set off him. So, you know, we'll see what happens.
That of course is Djokovic's part of the draw. So Summit would have to win 2 games to face him eventually. In the next bit, we've got Nishioka. He's made out pretty well. He's got the Tunisian qualifier as his Dugas, the world number 230, I believe, who's in his first slam.
Yeah, so this is pretty interesting. So Mohamed Aziz Dugas of Tunisia qualifying. I mean, his ranking is about 230 or something.
Yeah.
So barely good enough to get into the qualification, but he did get in, and I don't think he's even won a challenger title in his career. Yeah, just the ITFs. Yeah, so I mean, this is what can happen sometimes in qualifications. You do get players that come through, and obviously massive for him just to get through. And yeah, I mean, it could have been worse if you're an unseeded player than drawing Nishioka. Nishioka, I mean, I wouldn't say he's had a tremendous start to the year, but I think they're both lefties, right? So Dugas and Nishioka lefties. So maybe a bit different for them. Nishioka, though, you would have to say, though, he should really be able to get through this one. He has enough quality. I mean, Nishioka, I mean, it wasn't that long actually ago he did win another title, which was good for him. Here this year he lost to Kokkinakis in Adelaide. In Brisbane, though, he came through qualifying, beat Bolt and Lee 2, and then won his first round match against Artur Rinderknecht before losing in 3 sets to Jiří Lehečka. So, yeah, not too bad from him. And yeah, for Dugas, in his first ever slam appearance, I think it should be Nishioka that gets through. And of course, if he does get through, then it's potentially a match against, and most probably a match against Carlos Alcaraz. Although Carlos Alcaraz has to play an Asian representative in Alexander Shevchenko, who previously represented Russia. So, yeah. But for Alcaraz, you know, it's one of the tougher draws he could have got in terms of unseeded players, because Shevchenko's been up there. And, you know, Shevchenko is like, you know, he was inside the top 50 a year ago. So, and, you know, but I don't expect that he's going to be able to beat Alcaraz. And, you know, for Alcaraz, actually, he gets through that and he's got a pretty decent run. Not, you know, there, I think, but perhaps Jack Draper in the fourth round is the one to look out for. But I mean, Seb Corder's there as well, and Seb Corder could easily. I wouldn't be
And
surprised if he pulled off a win against Draper. So you never know who's going to be there. So
let's not forget Hong Kong champion Alexander Muller as well, because 5 sets won't be a problem.
yeah,
Because even when it's best of 3, he always insists on playing 3 sets.
yeah. I mean, he has to play against Nuno Borges, the guy who just well, he was playing in Hong Kong, and
Yeah.
then he's just been playing in Auckland, and he got to the semi-finals. So he had some pretty good results. I mean, he beat Jakub Menchik and then lost in 3 to Zizou Bergs. So yeah, but he's played the matches there. I mean, is that going to count for or against Borges? I mean, he's probably better to have those wins under his belt. Tricky one. I mean, a Muller Borges, I mean, I'd say it's like a 50-50 match, to be honest. And then, yeah, whoever gets through might have to play Thompson's tricky.
Moving on, you mentioned Menchik. I see that he's actually drawn against Basilashvili. Now, I have to say, from a point of view of the sole challenger, it is good to see Basilashvili actually getting through qualifying into the main draw. As I was saying at the time, they need to market this tournament as Road to the Australian Open, because essentially that's what it was. Basilashvili was very open about the fact, the reason I'm here is I want to qualify for qualifying for the Australian Open. I realized my theory fell down with the idea of marketing and that tournament, because there probably wasn't a budget or anything for it. But he's done that. He's come through qualifying. He's got Menchik in the first round. But there's a couple of more, probably from our point of view, more interesting ties in Section 7. Starting off with Shang, Jerry Shang. He's got Davidovich Fokina.
Yeah, so I forgot about that. I mean, of course, Basilashvili, he won the sole challenger, and that did allow him, to get in that quality. It pretty much guaranteed it. And for him to get through, actually, it's been 2 years since he was last in the Slam, which was the last 2023 Australian Open. And a tough one though against Menchik, but you never know. But yeah, for him, like potentially if he does get through, Shang or Davidovich Fokina is some of the opponents he could face. And Shang, it's a tough one I mean, that's a little tough section there.
It is, yeah.
For all those guys are capable of beating each other pretty much, you would say. And Shang and Davidovich Fokina is a rematch. I mean, remember that one that was that match in Madrid? I mean, they've played a few times, but there was that one, the controversial, it was a double bounce, right? And it was and Davidovich Fokina got away with that one and ended up winning the match. But Shang, tricky match to start off for him, and he's going to have to bring his A game if he's going to try and get through, I think. And if he does do that, he can win this match. I mean, obviously in Hong Kong, it wasn't ideal for him to get sick with the virus and pull out. You got to hope he's had enough time to rest and obviously get some practice in, good practice sessions in, good training, and is just generally healthy as well. So it's hard to see, but I mean, this is what it's all about. You're 19 still, I think he's right, and this is it. I mean, he's got to step up and show why there's his expectation on him as the one of the top, and why Nishikori said that if he works hard, Shang could perhaps reach the top 10. We've got Jan-Lennard Struff and Auger-Aliassime there. Very tough, but perhaps Munar, who did pretty well in Hong Kong, could cause the upset against Rudy. Rude's not so reliable in the hard courts. And then if you're looking down here, this is a big interest to us.
It's open for K.
Yeah,
you mentioned the Brazilians are here. Well, one of them is facing Nishikori. It is the aforementioned Thiago Monteiro, who actually is not the easiest of qualifiers to face. I mean, he's just shy of the top 100. I don't think he dropped a set in qualies either.
Yeah. Another left-handed player, which, left-handed players might bother some players. I don't think they particularly bother um, Nishikori, simply because he's such a good returner and he's so good on that backhand side, which is, a lefty will tend to go in that direction. And so, yeah, for Montero, yeah, definitely is one of the tougher players. I mean, he has been higher up and he has had wins in Slam. So good test for Nishikori to start off, but one that's winnable. And this is it. I mean, with Nishikori saying that, he wants to push on to the top 50 and beyond this year. And obviously he's in a good place now in terms of physically. He's talked about he's not really feeling anything serious at the moment. So he came through 2 tournaments, played 5 matches. So last 2 tournaments, right? So he's been playing well, hasn't he? And really, I would see this as an opportunity for him if he does get through. Probably Tommy Paul.
Yeah.
Big test, right? I mean, Tommy Paul, actually former quarterfinalist, or was it semi-finalist? 2 years ago in Australia. So yeah, it was the semi-finals, right? So he got to, obviously, I mean, we know he's seeded 12th for a reason, right? He's a very good player. But it's the kind of player that Nishikori would be looking to beat, to sort of, if he's really a ride back, then yeah, that's a big test for him. I'm excited to see that if he does get through. And then yeah, you'd have to say in this section, Tabulo.
It's not a bad section to be in, is it?
Yeah, and yeah, looking at that, it's not. I really don't think it's out of the question for Nishikori to go all the way to that 4th round and perhaps even the quarterfinals. But we'll have to see though, because obviously it's the physical
Best of 5
battle is different.
Yeah,
and perhaps Tommy Paul, I would say he's got a good opportunity as well. So we'll have to see how that goes. But I mean, Nishikori is the one that's perhaps that experience in Hong Kong will have helped him a bit. He's talked about feeling a bit tight in that final against Alexandra Muller. But, now arriving here, maybe if he goes into because I think maybe it helps him as well. If he goes he beats Montero and then he can play Paul. He's sort of like the underdog against Paul, because he's not been at it for a while. So I think that would help him.
Tommy Paul, last seen with a cameo watching polo in Meghan and Harry's Netflix documentary. Moving on to the final section of the draw, and we do finally get a final match of note. We do finally get a Tennis Asia Bowl of sorts. The qualifier, the history-making Hadi Habib, again, who's in his first slam against Bu Yunchao Keti, who's in his second slam main draw.
Yes, a big story of the qualification was Hadi Habib becomes the first player in the open era to make a slam main draw from Lebanon. And he's born in the US, but as I understand, he moved to Lebanon actually when he was like 5 or 6, and that's where he actually learned to play tennis for the first time. And then moved back in his teens back to the US to continue his tennis development. And this is where he is now. And yeah, great story. I mean, and that last qualification match was, it's just crazy. I mean, he won that first set, and then his opponent, Clement Shidek, came back into it, won the second set, and actually was in top, got a break fairly early on in that third set. And it did look as if, for most of that set, because, that Habib was going to just miss out, but somehow he managed to claw his way back into it. There's like several breaks of serve exchanged, and it was less. It was more about the player who was serving or who had got the break, sort of feeling the pressure,
right?
But it was amazing entertainment. There was a great atmosphere, a lot of support there for both players. A lot of Lebanese, people of Lebanese descent in Australia and in Melbourne especially. So, it was just crazy that when he got into that tiebreak, he eventually won it super tiebreak 10-8. And it was just such a surprising sort of way to do it, because he was behind most of that final set. And Yeah, it's like a fairy tale, really. I mean, because he barely got into the qualification by winning his first challenger title at the end of 2024, and that just got him into uh,
Right.
made the, to make the cut for qualies, and then he comes through. So, yeah, fairy tale for him, and then but comes up against Boo, who I suppose since his amazing run in in the China swing, where he reached the semis back to back and beat some top players like Musetti and Rublev.
Mm,
He hasn't quite sort of matched that level. He's won some matches, but I mean, yeah, in Hong Kong, he probably really should have beaten Nuno Borges. He was up a break in that final set and then got broken. And then it went to a
mm.
tie break, and it felt like he just sort of let a few points slip that he shouldn't have done. And, Nuno Borges ended up taking that. And Boo, and a guy on the quicker surfaces, though, big first serve, and that's going to definitely count in his favor. But I mean, I think Habib as well is also capable of that. So if Boo can come out, I mean, I do think his base level is pretty good. I think he should actually beat Habib, but Habib's going to have a lot of support, I think, as well. And let's see how it goes. I mean, Habib's an underdog, but he's definitely not impossible for him to win it. So we've talked about, I just mentioned, Boo maybe feeling the pressure a bit because he's kind of a favorite here. We'll see if that takes if that comes into play. So, and then that rounds off the Asian players.
It does. Confidence levels, from what you've said, Nishikori the best chance of serious progress.
Yeah, and I think it'll come down to that if he does have to play Paul. If he gets through that, you're thinking probably for the confidence of him as well, it's going to go right up, isn't it? So, yeah, Nishikori is the one that I think is a sort of a dark horse in a way, right? And yeah, I'll be looking forward to seeing how he does. He's going to be taking playing his first match on Sunday.
On Sunday, lots of games on Sunday. Lots of games in the women's as well. We will move across to the women's now. There's probably quite a few more players on the women's side. Certainly, a lot of Chinese players have made it in. We've
Yeah,
talked quite a lot about the progress of Chinese women's tennis. But we'll start off with, from the top, and, we might as well start from the best, the machine, Moyuka Uchijima. She's got Magda Linette in the first round with the possibility, nay, the certainty of getting through and playing the younger Andreeva, most likely, if successful.
yeah. So for Uchijima, tough draw. I mean,
Yeah,
Magdalena,
isn't it just?
pretty solid player. And yeah, even if she was to get through that one, man, I don't think the conditions particularly suit Uchijima. More sort of quicker here, but I mean for Lynette, it's a match that's tricky in itself in terms of unseeded players. And then yeah, if she does get through, then having to play Mira Andreeva, who, to be honest, is a player that I think has a good chance of reaching the latter stages of this tournament. I mean, she's so talented. Yeah, and frankly, I think most people will be seriously backing Andreeva to get to that fourth round and face
To
off
the fourth
against
round.
Sabalenka, and that's a pretty intriguing one, isn't it? For stepping back from Tennis Asia, that is an intriguing
Yeah,
prospect, I think. But of course, Sabalenka is so good that she'll have to come up, with something, the kind of tennis she probably hasn't quite played yet before. But I mean, there's no doubting the talent of Andreeva and Uchijima. If she gets through that against Lynette, I think we'll call that a success from her point of view.
yeah, absolutely.
And,
Okay, we're going to go on to the next part. We've got we've got a couple of Chinese players in here. Yuan Yue, interesting one. Pavlyuchenkova, not the easiest. If she was to get through to the third round, then Zheng Qinwen would lie in wait. Zheng, of course, has got Anka Tadoni, the qualifier
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
from Romania.
Yeah, so yeah, first mention Yuan Yue, your friend from Seoul.
Yeah,
She
gave her a
is
bit of advice, and
she's got a pretty good pretty aggressive ground game. She's got good strokes, and I think for Pavlyuchenkova, I mean, it's definitely one of the better seeds that she could have drawn. I mean, Pavlyuchenkova
yeah,
is sort of in the
she's not
getting
ranked
on a
that
bit,
much higher than Yuan is either. So
right? Exactly, and it's definitely a match that she can navigate. And if perhaps she has a chance, Yuan. If she gets through, then she might face against Zheng in the third round. Yeah, Zhang, I mean, really, it is one that you would expect to be able to beat any of the players in that little section there. The first test
I
for her.
gotta say, how did you? I'm just interjecting at this point because that was like your worlds colliding, wasn't it? Yesterday, Sheng Wen and Andy Murray interactions.
Yeah. So yeah, that was obviously yes. In case you hadn't noticed, I am from Scotland. I mean, it was weird as well, just seeing obviously Andy back, but working with Novak. That was quite strange, yeah. And then of course, yeah, doing the doubles, charity doubles with Zhang, and yeah. But I mean, Zhang is there. I mean, she is uh, very serious. I mean, like she's extremely ambitious. She's ranked fifth in the world now. And I mean, she talked in her press conference beforehand. Though she pushes her team hard, but she's trying to get the
Yeah,
balance right. She's saying like, I need my I need my backhand to be better. I need to work on this, and like she's pushing her team to push her, and she's a serious player. But I mean, yeah, I mean she's shown.
she's got Tadoni. Tadoni did play Wimbledon, I think, last year, and actually she came through the qualifications there as well. I think she actually won a round at Wimbledon before losing to Coco Gauff. But so she's not bad, but shouldn't really detain Zheng too long.
Yeah, and of course Zhang, she is defending her final from last year. She got to the
Final,
final in
yeah.
Korea. Yeah, I mean, I think she will get through this section, and then in the fourth round, first test maybe comes against Donna Vekic, who she played in the final of the Olympics, and then Diana Schneider, who is a player that did so well last year, and there's Tomljanovic there, but I don't think it's gonna be much trouble. So the problem for Zhang is she gets through that fourth round and she gets through, then she's probably playing Sabalenka, perhaps Andreeva, but probably
As we
Sabalenka.
said, the name of this podcast should have been "And Then She Played Sabalenka."
Well, I mean, if I'm going to put a positive spin on it, if Zhang does meet Sabalenka in the quarterfinal, obviously it's bad because she's played 5 matches against her, and I mean, only really sort of came. I mean, did she even really came close? She took it to 3 sets in Beijing, right?
In the
sorry, Wuhan, was it? I'm getting
it was
mixed
Wuhan,
up.
the one that Sabalenka won. The one that Sabalenka won, the tournament that she's won every single iteration of. It was in that one.
Yeah, right. So, having said that, if Zhang can get a foothold in that match, if they do play in the quarterfinals, it's probably better for her to face her in the quarterfinal than it would be like in maybe a final or something, because then the pressure maybe starts to build on Sabalenka a bit. I guess though it's pressure also for Zhang though, because she's defending that final from last year. So, but I mean, if she was to make the quarterfinals, it's not a disaster, is it? Right? I mean, if she was to lose there, I think it's what you're really looking for is to see if she can actually put up a better fight again,
and make some progress that again would stand her in good stead for the rest of the year. Talking about now, I want to talk difficult draws. You couldn't really script this one. Naomi Osaka, of course, she can land anywhere in the draw, but that's a tough place to land.
Yeah, and as a player, Osaka played Garcia last year, and Osaka lost, right? And they've played before in a slam, so yeah, difficult first one for Osaka. But you would hope. I mean, obviously, Osaka got to the final. Obviously, had to retire in the final with the injury, but she seems okay. coming into this. She says she is going to play. So, yeah, I mean, tennis-wise, she's starting to get there. We saw that a crazy performance against Swiatek that was on clay last year, but that was just a sort of glimpse into the levels that she's capable of. But then even if she gets through that, and I think she can, she'll have to play probably Karolina Muchova, and that's just I mean, that's just horrible, really. And
please, 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 a third round of Penko against Osaka. That'd be brilliant.
Yeah, but Mukova against Osaka could be a cracking match as well. I mean, again, also with Ostapenko has to play benches though as well. I mean, that's with her PR and then who again, much like the top section with Sinner, I feel like these players are just they're playing to be whoever survives is going to be their carcass is going to be
picked
fed
off
on by Coco Gauff. So so that's just I mean, Coco Gauff started off brilliantly, playing in the United Cup and winning all their matches, including beating Iga Świątek and I mean, she just looks like a woman on a mission. And I mean, if she went all the way and actually won the tournament, wouldn't be that surprising, to be honest.
Surprising.
And her and Sabalenka are up there, I think, as clear favorites. And okay, we've got here in section 4.
Interesting section. So Wang, this is Wang Jinyu, dangerous floater, and she's landed with all of China supporting her against Paula Badosa.
Yeah, we can see a little information there. She's got a career high singles ranking of world number 32. And Paula Badosa, from her point of view, from Badosa's point of view, she doesn't. I don't think she's particularly happy about drawing Wang if she knows anything about her. As an unseeded player, she's quite a good player, solid, solid player herself from baseline, and she's got a fair bit of power on herself. So I say, it's something to relish if you're Wang, if you're looking, to try and get that win, because if she does, Sun, Mez, and Gibson in the next round gets easier, and then here Kostyuk, of course, is tough. I mean, she'll be playing the qualifier. Habino, great for now Habino to get through qualies. She had to beat Harriet Dart, who was seeded third in the qualies, to come through. And Harriet Dart wasn't particularly gracious at the handshake. But now Habino, when she won, big roar from her. And Habino, I really enjoy watching her play. Actually, I mean, she's not the biggest player, but she's got really clean. She hits the ball so cleanly that her strokes are actually quite powerful considering her height. And
she's been on the. We've been following her for years and years and years. I remember sitting outside the Seoul tournament a few years ago with our mutual friend Mark, and we were just sipping a beer, and we saw someone who I was sure was now Habino, just with a coach at the next table. I said, I bet that's now Habino. That's now Habino. I was like, I'm going to go and ask her. And then Mark was like, I wouldn't bother, because it was like 45 minutes before a match, and whoever this person we thought was now Habino just opened a can of beer and started swinging from it. So, like, if that was now Habino, she'd be the coolest player ever. Kostyuk is that's quite a hard draw. Kostyuk was in Seoul last year as well.
Yeah, and it's a difficult draw. Kostyuk, I think she got to the quarters, right? But that was, it's. I mean, I think for Habino, it's just great for her to get in the draw. I mean, it's where she should be, but I mean, obviously the money that comes with it just from getting to the first round, I think it's like 130,000 Australian dollars. I mean, I think which is about 80,000 US dollars. Not bad, is it? So I mean, for her, she's just got to go out there and give it a good shot. Obviously, having some matches under her belt, she's got that sharpness. So hopefully carry that into the match against Kostyuk. But I think from you're definitely still favouring Kostyuk to get through. So Pegula is in that section as well, and if Wang does manage to get through somehow to fourth round, you fancy Pegula though in the end to be able to take her out. But Rybakina there in the next section. She's up against the wild card, the teenager, 16-year-old Emerson Jones, who was a finished runner-up twice in some of the junior slams last year when, I think one of them she was still 15. So obviously talent there, amazing experience for the youngster, but Rybakina should be able to navigate that one, you'd imagine. Yeah, and not a bad little section for her, I have to say.
Yeah, that's not the trickiest.
Perhaps Lula's son, the sort of dangerous for her, but yeah, good for her for Rybakina because. But then also, I just realised another teenager, the wild card
Oh,
here.
we've talked about her before, haven't we? When she won she won the tournament in
Yeah,
California a few months
the
ago. Yeah,
17-year-old.
yeah,
So yeah, she's also twice. She was Wimbledon and the U.S. Open junior semi-finalist. So, and she also finished a runner-up at a 100 level, and she also beat Ina Shibahara to win her 75 title.
that's right.
So
That's how she crossed our radar. Yes.
yeah. So pretty interesting and great
Mm.
for. I mean, perhaps she could beat Parisas Diaz. And so Rybakina perhaps having to face two teenagers, one after the other. But I mean, I suppose she'd take it, Rybakina, wouldn't she?
Mm.
But I mean, let's see though, because I mean, obviously these are players who are got a lot of potential. Let's see if she can bring it. I mean, of course, Jovic. Let's remember she actually played in the U.S. Open, and she beat Magdalenette. And then
She was the Kazidit Samaraj of that tournament because she won the tournament to get the wild card for
right,
that. I think she probably lost and then went back to playing the juniors
but then no, she beat Magdalenette, and then she beat
in the
and
first
then
round. Yeah.
yeah, and then lost to Alexandrova, but in three
Mm.
sets. So yeah, I mean, perhaps Jovic can give Rybakina some trouble. So I mean, it's going to be an interesting one to look out for anyway. And yeah, also in that section we have a Danielle Collins. I mean, we're wanting to see if she can sort of bring her level. Sort of, a year ago she was doing really well and it sort of tapered off. But if we move on, we've got quite a
Yeah,
few more. I'm
plenty of
going
this. Zheng, yeah, we better quick up. Zheng
I'll skip
Sai,
through it.
she's ranked pretty lowly, but obviously she's using a protective ranking. She's got a pedigree in the Aussie Open. She played Osaka a few years ago.
Yeah,
She recently lost in Brisbane to Ons, and she's got the Andreeva the Elder.
yeah. Primarily, playing doubles, Zheng Shai.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm not particularly hopeful that she's not had many wins in the singles. So, but I mean, on looking down here, we should talk about Wei Sijia.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
beaten by Ito Ai in the
Paolini.
final in Canberra, and well, that's quite a draw.
Exactly. So, yeah, Wei qualifying also very similarly to Hadi Habib
Mm.
because she came through a tough match and had to win it. I think it was 11-9 in the breaker. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, just a great opportunity. Your first slam. I mean, she can play a bit Wei. I mean, she's got a decent ground game. Obviously, it's a massive step up to play Paolini. I mean, I think Paolini, her level at the moment, she's got a base level there that's it's
Yeah.
she should be able to get through this
Mm.
one, but great opportunity. Just and for Wei, you just she's probably just going to go out there and enjoy it, and let's see how far she can push Paolini and maybe get a set close. But I mean, it's just a great experience just to get.
Learning experience. Yeah.
Uh,
Moving on, we've got Wang Jiyu. I think this is probably the match which has got the two biggest combined current rankings. Saying Julia Graybird's using the protective ranking, hasn't played
right.
much at all recently. Um, uh, hard to really say who is going to win this one. They did meet. I did read today. They did actually play each other in 2023 in Ohio, and Graber came out the winner.
Well, yeah. I think maybe Wang has a good chance to get through there, but then obviously probably Navarro in the second round, which is very tough. And then down here we've got Yulia Putintseva against Evanesian, and potentially playing Zhang Shuai here. Funnily enough, Zhang Shuai is drawn against McCartney Kessler, who Zhang beat to end her 24 loss streak. So that was the first
of course,
player she beat.
Yeah,
it was McCartney Kessler. Mm-hmm. So perhaps she'll be having some good feelings coming into that one. And
was Shang? Did she win? Did she win the women's wildcard tournament?
Yeah, so that's how she's here. So she won the Asia Pacific wildcard. Yeah, and she had to play a tough match against her compatriot in the final, because Gao, who is like primarily a doubles player, and put up a great match. But Zhang in the end deserves winner, and yeah, let's see if she can get a win here, and perhaps like an interesting little match there in the second round against either Putintseva or Evanesian. And then
for a final one on our list is Wang Yifan against Anna Bondar for the right to lose against Rybakina.
Yeah, I mean, Wang Yifan, pretty tough competitor. I remember she beat Emma Raducanu, wasn't it? I think. Was it in Australia?
It may well have been, yeah.
It may well have been, yeah. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of solid players out on the Chinese side for the women, and definitely a winnable one for her. But yeah, of course, Rybakina, tricky player that I think will enjoy playing in Australia. And talking of Raducanu, she is down there. She's been handed a horrible first round tie against Alexandrova. Yeah. But and then potentially, Raducanu against Świątek, but perhaps
be a third round. No.
Alexandrova against Świątek, also tricky for Świątek, I would imagine. So, yeah. There we go. We've done it. We went through the whole draw.
Overall, I mean, I'm not going to ask you who's got the best chance of making progress on the women's side, but apart from the obvious, anyone possible to go on a run
on the women's side?
Yeah, apart from the obvious, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Zheng, and I mean, I would have maybe said Osaka, but obviously the draw is kind of horrible, right? And maybe Zhang Shuai can put like a, if things go her way, maybe she can put in a little run, because you never know with the draw, things can open up. I mean, if you look on her side, Sakari, these players are, you never know what's going to happen. So for Shang Shuai, I think she's a former quarter finalist. Back in 2016 in the Australian Open. So perhaps, she could go on a little run. I don't know, but I have to go through and remind myself. I mean, of course, Rybakina.
Of course,
it's definitely capable. But yeah, it's going to be a test for now to Rybakina to see if she can do that, because and Osaka, she's going to need luck on her side. But if we're going to look overall, the women's and the men's, I mean, I think clearly Zhang has that chance to get through to the quarterfinals. But if I'm, perhaps I'm really looking forward to seeing Nishikori, to see if he can actually, he's a sort of dark horse there, and he's in this sort of, I think, this is the real test. This will tell us a lot of information about whether he is sort of really back and what we can sort of expect from him this year.
Right.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
First Grand Slam of 2025 gets underway 9:30 a.m. our time on Sunday. So some early, relatively early starts and some prime time finishes. Obviously, well, I don't think doubles is out yet. We'll take a look at that when it is. For now, unless there's any other business, enjoy the Australian Open. Hopefully we're back here a week from now talking about, and we've still got some competitors from Asia in contention.
And make sure, there's a lot of those matches that we talked about are going to be
on
being played on Sunday.
Sunday. Yeah,
And who knows? Haven't decided yet, or even organised it, but maybe we'll have a live stream. Maybe we won't, but yeah, look out for that if we do.
absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, obviously, check on the website as well, tennisasiamedia.com. And Eddie, I'll speak to you very, very soon.
Yeah, cheers.
4-6, 7-6.